So I'm going to record this too. So writing a DBQ, we've already talked about thesis statement, the importance of that, and having criteria. We've also talked about contextualization in your intro paragraph. That's vitally important. Okay. I want to hear from some of you guys in your intro, because we didn't have time to do it after the test that we had the other day. So I'll ask some of you to do that. Contextualization is setting the scene. It's the Star Wars effect. We're with the rolling credits. You get a point for that when it comes to the AP. You get a point for the thesis statement and having criteria in that thesis statement. And the other thing that I want to really discuss is how to quote properly. So what I need is everybody to pull out the how to write a DBQ that you have on Google Classroom. Pull that out. We were looking at it before, but I need everybody to have it in front of them right now. And I'm going to have you scroll down to use of documents. Let me give you a few minutes to do that. And it should be in your resources, writing the DBQ. Does anybody not have it yet? Are we good to go? I'm assuming everybody's got it in front of them. Okay, so I'm going to read a little bit from it. It says here, the documents serve as an additional source of relevant evidence in addition to your outside knowledge. If here, there are 7 documents, and to receive a high score, students will have to analyze all or all but one of the documents. Okay, so in this case, there's more than 7, so 6. I'm going to require you to do 6. If ever, I'm using an older DBQ and there's more than 7 documents, and you're required to use 6. So that's what you'll be required for this one. A serious mistake in answering the DBQ is to write little more than a descriptive list of the documents, which AP calls a laundry list. For example, according to document 1, blah, 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 or document 2 says this, blah, blah, blah. Document 3 says that. The arrangement of the documents in the DBQ should not control the organization of the essay. Should not. Instead, analyze the documents in terms of evidence to be linked to the thesis and integrate them into a well-organized and persuasive essay where you are answering the prompt effectively. Okay, so yeah, does anybody have any questions so far? We're good on that. Okay, going on. Remember that not all documents will have equal weight in supporting your thesis. Communicate to the reader your awareness of the bias or unreliability of a document, or how a document which may not support your thesis fits in the context that is relevant to the question. And in order to quote from these documents, here's how you do it. You will first naturally introduce the document. For an example, you might say, in an essay written by Joe Schmo, in a newspaper article written by Jim Schmo. Then you will directly quote the document, right? The part that you're going to use. And you're only going to use a little bit, no more than a line or a line and a half of the document. And here's an example of how you can use one of the documents from the DBQ. Here you go. This is a great example. In an excerpt from a model of Christian charity, John, and then now it's, you put quotation marks there because you're going to quote directly. You're going to quote directly, so you're going to have a quotation mark there. John Winthrop states, we must consider that we shall be as a city upon a hill, end quote. And then you put in parentheses, document 1. Now you would then use HIP, H-I-P-P. So I chose in this one to use P. The purpose of this statement is to clarify the goal of the New England colony for their northern colonists. This idea of a city upon a hill becomes sewn into the most fundamental aspects of New England and eventually helps to shape its unique culture along with that of the future United States. You must quote on the doc and incorporate it into your essay and prove your thesis. You can't just use a doc as evidence. You have to quote on it after it. Never, ever, ever leave a doc hanging. Never, ever, ever leave a doc hanging. Fred, where'd you go? You're going to have to listen to this. Never leave a doc hanging, which means don't just have the document and evidence and then move on to the next sentence or the next idea. You have to comment on it. You have to use one of H, I, P, or P. Everybody understand that? There must, in your analysis, there must be what I like to say, meat on the bone. Meat on the bone, which means it better be something of value, something that gives insight, something that helps prove your thesis. The sentences after, right? The quote, the purpose of this statement is to clarify the goal of the New England colony for their northern colonists, right? So everybody on that boat. This idea, and I go on here, this idea of a city upon a hill becomes sewn into the most fundamental aspects of New England and eventually helps shape its unique culture along with that of the future United States. Remember, you are an expert and you must comment on that. Don't give me something that someone walking out of Burger King and you ask them to read that quote, they could come back and say, city upon a hill. Oh, they want to be an example to everybody. That's it. That's not enough. That's not enough. Meat on the bone. The commentary that you must provide after each quote has got to double back and prove your thesis. And it must be relevant and it must have meat on the bone. Okay, if you give me something too general, you're not going to get the credit for it. You're going to get knocked down on it. Okay, so remember what HIP is. If you scroll down, historical context is the H, the I is intended audience, the P is the purpose, and the other P is the point of view. HIPP. Use one of them.
Okay.
You're going to quote, you're going to do this 6 times, right? Hold on. You're going to do this 6 times. If you use purpose for every single one of them, it's going to be boring. Use a combination of those. Use a combination of those. And you must, in your essay, incorporate outside information. And where is your reservoir for outside information? Your what?
Your brain.
Yes. But what is your brainstorm? Remember we did the brainstorm. Yeah, your brain in the brainstorm. So absolutely. Luke, you had a question.
Yeah, so like we can put multiple of those for each document we use, or for each example we use, we can use like say 2 of those.
You would use no, you'd use one of them per quote, but you're going to quote 6 times. You're going to use 6 quotes. So you just mix it up. You know, maybe you'll use 2 purposes and you'll use a point of view, and you can mix it up. You can use it 2 or 3 times.
So like we would say like something like we quote something like for this one, and then we say like the point of view of this writer or something, and then say something, right? Like that would be one of our things. Something meaningful and that refers back to your thesis. You're proving your point. Remember, your thesis is going to be your argument. You're answering the question in your thesis, and now you're going to give proof of why you answered it that way, or why you are correct. Everything has to be dedicated toward doing that, and nothing general.
I don't want Burger King-ish. If you read that on your paper, that means your commentary is Burger King-ish, meaning anybody could do that. And you don't even have to know who John Winthrop or the Puritans are. You can just read that quote and go, oh, that's what that's saying. Give me some historical knowledge. Your way to bring in the outside information. Hunter.
So the point of commentary 2 is to answer your thesis?
Yes.
All right.
You know your old concrete detail commentary? This is where you're really trying to prove your thesis. These are your commentaries right here. I don't know if you want to look at it as the quote is your concrete detail, and then you're providing commentary after it. And you're using HIP as a guideline for that. Okay. Hey, never use a document in your intro or your thesis. You quote from a document and then you get out. Remember, this paper is not about the documents. It's about your analysis, and you're using the documents to prove your point. Everybody understand that? Okay. So
we're gonna have, does it matter? Like, I know how we used to have like 11 sentence paragraph. Do we need like 11 sentence paragraph, kind of like that format?
No. I'm not. I'm a big fan of the concrete detail commentary type idea, but 2 commentaries may not be enough. It may take 3. You may be able to do it in 2. Does everything always does everything always boil down to 3 concrete details? Probably not. Maybe it's going to take 5 concrete details and then commentaries, and but the idea that I love about that is, hey, here's my concrete detail and these are my commentaries. But don't restrict yourself to an 11 sentence paragraph. Okay. And the topic sentence, every one of these should have a topic sentence. Those are important, where you're telling the reader what you're going to be writing about.
Is 11 like the bare minimum?
There's no such thing as a bare minimum. It's got to, whatever it takes to be good. I hate that my students come. I love that concept of a 11 sentence paragraph. I hate that you feel like everything has to have 3 points to it, and I got to, go like that. No, have some creativity, and, you got to have meat on the bone, and you got to have something that's got outside information and all that good stuff. Now, the other thing that you have to do is you have to come up with a conclusion. And the conclusion doesn't have to be that long, 3-4 sentences. But in your conclusion, in order to get the synthesis point, you got to make some kind of connection in history. Like, this is similar to, in the future, you got to build in that you got to make a connection somewhere in the document. It says here in the bottom, it says incorporating synthesis. For the DBQ, synthesis can involve 1, extending or modifying the thesis with a counterexample, like a counterexample. Another example of maybe something like the Pilgrims. That's another example. Recognize and accounting for contradictory evidence in the argument. Although it has been said that, however, those kind of arguments. And then, my favorite one, and I think the easiest one, is connecting the topic to another historical period, geographical area, context, or circumstance beyond that which is called in the prompt. Right? This is similar to, later on or early, it's similar earlier in history, something like that, making a connection, and I want you to do that in your conclusion. Okay, so this is how the essay is broken down in regard to the A push when you do this. And I grade a little bit differently, but in the second semester, I'll grade them exactly like this. 1 point for your thesis, which must include criteria to get the point. You can't just restate the question. You could restate the question, but you must have criteria attached to it. Analysis of the documents, 3 points, right? If you're able to do 6 documents and you analyze them and you use HIP and you have meat on the bone, you're going to get all 3 of those points. Outside information, providing that from that resume, you got to provide outside. If it's all document driven and there's nothing outside of the documents, then you're not going to get full credit for this essay. Contextualization, that's in your intro, another point for that. And then synthesis, the point that you make in your conclusion where you tie it to something else in history. Questions on this?
How many paragraphs do you think should be there? 4 or 5?
The least you would do would be 4. But like this one, the least you would do. But almost all essays should be 5-paragraph essays. I'll tell you what. What's that? I'll tell you what. This is what I want to do. I want you to work on this today. I am not going to make it due tomorrow. It's in, turn it in, due tomorrow. But I want you to be able to work through this, and I want you to be able to ask me any questions. Come with questions tomorrow. Come with questions. All right, start this. If you have any issues, I want you to come to me, because I just feel like I'm rushing this thing. We didn't have time to even go over your intro, contextualization in your intro. I would love to go over a few of those right now. What time do I have till? I have till 10:35. So we have some time right now that we can. I asked everybody to write an intro. Who wants to read theirs right now?
Coach, real quick, before we do that, kind of a quick question.
Yeah.
So, like, if we have 3 or 5 paragraphs, right? Will we put like 2 documents in each paragraph? We'll quote 2 documents in each paragraph.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
then what would our other concrete detail could be, like, from our own knowledge kind of too, or no? Would it just be kind of
What
like
other concrete detail?
Oh, we only have 2 concrete details in each paragraph?
No, I'm not saying that. You can have as many concrete details as you want.
Oh, we can't. Okay.
Get away from the idea of the 11-sentence paragraph and I have to have 3 concrete details. Get away from that. The idea of having concrete details and then backing them up with commentaries is what I'm after.
Okay.
Don't limit yourself. Don't get in. That's why I always have a hard time getting my students out of that. Oh, I got to have 3 points in every paragraph. And, no, don't just get out of that. Hunter.
Well, I was saying I'd like to read mine.
I'd like to hear it. Let's hear it.
All right. The British Navy's victory over the Spanish Armada was an influential factor that was attributed to British exploration across the Atlantic. After defeating the Spanish Armada in 1588, the British could sail east without as much threat from the Spanish forces. This defeat over the Spanish, combined with the desire to expand from the people of England, was a driving force in exploration of the New World. These factors were attributed to England's voyages to the New World, which landed them in 2 distinct areas, or I'll say 2 distinct regions, New England and Chesapeake. Although New England and Chesapeake were both settled primarily by people of English origin, by 1700, the regions had evolved into 2 distinct societies due to each region's intention for settling, geographical differences, and each region's system of hierarchy.
Bam. That's really good. I mean, does everybody see the contextualization from the Spanish Armada? And he really, truly did use the funnel technique. He started out really broad, 1588. And then he gradually brought it in. Hey, and then they developed mainly in the 2 regions, New England and Chesapeake. And then bam, the last thing, which is the bottom of the funnel, is the thesis statement. And he had 3 things that he's going to talk about. It's a 5-paragraph essay. Go with that. You're on the right track right there. Great start. Anybody else want to give theirs? Fred, do you have a question or you want to give yours?
I was gonna ask, when is this? Does this have like a due date, or is it something that we gradually work on?
I'm gonna tell you what that due date is tomorrow after I answer any questions that you have. Most likely the due date's going to be Monday.
Okay.
Yeah. That way it gives you the weekend to. Now normally you're going to get 24 hours. Normally I give it to you. It's due the next day. But this first one, I'd rather have it be right than have it you rush through it and have it be sloppy and not done right. Anybody else want to give me their intro? before I start picking people.
Oh, also, do we have to cite the quotes, or do we just get the quotes and just quote them?
You cite it the way I told you to cite it, right? That would be naturally introduce it, but not like you're not citing like on the bottom of the page type thing. You're citing, you're saying in a book written by, in an excerpt from, naturally introduce it.
Okay.
Okay. Now that part of the how to write a DBQ that shows you exactly how to do the to quote from the documents is vital for you. Now the question is going to come up is how do you quote from a list of passengers? Like there's that one that has a list of passengers. You don't quote that. You just say but you make something out of it. Make a ratio of men to women, or make a ratio. Do that. If you're going to point out at something on a map, like maybe one of the documents is a map, as shown in the map. You could say it something like that. Yeah, but you can't quote from a map or a political cartoon or something like that. But you have to give a vision of the reader, like they don't know what's on that map or they don't know what's on that political cartoon. And anytime you can make a ratio of things like in the list of passengers that's in the documents, if you've looked at those documents, you can do it. All right, work with that today. Be ready tomorrow to go over some of this. I'll probably ask more of you to share your intro. I want those people who are making connections. I want to hear what connections you're making. I want to see some of the ways that you're quoting documents. So, yeah, get started on it. I want you at least tomorrow to have the first body paragraph done. Everybody already has the intro done, correct? I want everybody to have the intro plus one body paragraph. Does that make sense? Okay, so I need to see Javi, Fred, Michael, Joseph Da Silva, Ben, and Hunter. And everybody else, we'll see you tomorrow in class. Thanks for coming today.
Thanks, Coach.
Okay.
Thank you. Thanks, Coach.
Coach, I have a
Alright.
question on the
Coach.
body
Yeah.
paragraph. So does each paragraph you have like a specific like say in your thesis you had your 3 factors, right? They
Your
cause
criteria.
differences. So
Yeah,
so each paragraph would be in support of that specific factor,
that's right.
geographical or something. Okay.
Yeah, so if you have 3 things, I made everybody have 3 factors, right, in the intro. So it's a 5-paragraph essay. So the first one
Yeah.
would be body paragraph 1, the second one would be body paragraph 2, third one would be body paragraph 3.
Okay.
And then you're going to go 2, 2, and 2, 2 quotes from each. I mean, if one, maybe you can only get 1 quote, then one of them better have 3. One of the other ones better have 3.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Coach.
Okay. We'll see you tomorrow. Thanks, Jake.
Yep.
Okay, so guys, I don't know exactly what happened, but either I didn't get your everybody. I didn't get Fred. Your had like the last 10 or so were not. I must have kicked out on you or something, but you weren't able to finish it. And then everybody else, it just says that I didn't get it. Something happened and I didn't get it. It's a royal pain in the butt, I know. And I'm working through it. I'm on a AP U.S. History teachers community site, and a lot of people are having the same problems. So what I did was I created a new test. This one you should not be required to use Lockdown Browser on this one. Okay, so if you can go to the site sometime today, you have the rest of the day to do it, and